Welcome, dear friends, to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. This is a show where we take a fresh look, a new look at life and the world around us, and we want you to participate. Well, as a matter of fact, you have to participate because you drive the show. I'm Debbie Georgiani along with Jerry Usher, and we are excited today to be sharing with you and discussing the idea about names, the meaning behind names, the history of names. We read about names all the time in the Bible. We understand that everybody identifies themselves with a name. So we want to talk about that today. We want to talk about your name. We want to talk about Jerry's name, and I'll share about my name, but we got to hear from you. So start dialing, because this is the show that we know the phone lines, when they light up, they're going to stay lit up throughout the entire hour. So don't hesitate. Call in now at 1-800-585-9396. Jerry, I researched your name.
You did?
What
did your research come up with?
Gerard. I researched Gerard. Well, I did have a kind of a personal reason, because my husband's middle name is Gerard as well. So you both share that beautiful name, Gerard, and it does talk about being, derived from being a German descent and a German soldier, and it talks about spears, and it talks about Gerard as brave and hardy. And you know what, Jerry? I think I'm not a pirate.
Was that a pirate sound?
Sort of, but it sounded good.
Okay.
But I do think that fits you and Marty very much.
Really?
So, because because both of you have this internal strength and bravery, and I think you're very resilient and very hardy, and I think that is awesome. I mean, and so your identity definitely resonates and reflects your name. Just thought I'd tell you that.
Well, thank you very much, and I actually, researched your name a little bit, which you probably did too. So,
yeah.
you in fact, you mentioned yesterday that it means bee, and we were talking about whether it means like queen bee or something, but also we have the example of Deborah, the heroine and prophetess, who led the Israelites to defeat the Canaanites in the Old Testament. So, share a little bit more. What is kind of the root of Deborah?
Well, it is a very strong name, and it's a Hebrew name. It's and it's very like you said, Jerry. She was the prophetess, the leader who helped the Israelites defeat the Canaanites. And I really think that when we went back to the Holy Land, do you remember this, Jerry? That a lot of the churches, they would actually honor the female Old Testament leaders, and Deborah is one of them. And we studied that. Steve Ray, when we were on the pilgrimage for Vocation Boom, they were sharing that, and I didn't realize she had such a respected role way back when. And yeah, she was a leader, and I tend to be somewhat of a leader, but I can follow as well, which is good. But I do think my name does fit me. Although growing up, I felt I always wanted to be called something else. It's kind of strange.
Really?
Did you ever have that?
Well, not really. I mean, I was never crazy about Gerard. I like it a lot more now because I know the Saint Gerard, the Redemptorist brother who died young. But my nickname was always Jerry, and there were 5 kids in our family. Jerry, Joe, John, Jim were the boys, all, I was going to say easy to remember, except, when one of us got in trouble, Mom would be like, Joe, John, Jim, Jerry, whichever one you are, get over here. But for those of you who are listening today, you're thinking, oh, well, what is this topic all about? Why are they talking about this? Well, Debbie, we see in the Bible, for example, so many changes of names. The famous one for all of us, Jesus changes Simon's name to Peter, Abram to Abraham, so many others. And folks, this always indicates sort of a new mission, a new identity, a new purpose. And so wrapped up within your name, as you're listening right now, is it has a meaning, a purpose. Debbie, I don't have any kids. You had kids. Talk about what did you do as you were naming your kids? You thought about it. I'll bet you prayed about it. You thought, what name do I want to give my children so as to sort of represent what I hope for them, and how I want God to bless them?
Well, absolutely. I mean, when my former husband and I were deciding, what to name our children, our first son we named after both grandparents, both grandfathers. So his name is Daniel William. And so the Daniel's after my father-in-law's name, and then William was my dad's name. But I looked it up, Jerry, exactly what you said. I looked it up, and Daniel means judge, and I looked it up, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. I love this because, maybe he can identify with this. But when Matthew was born, our second son, Matthew came after I had cancer, and he was one of those children that we prayed about and prayed for because there were so many obstacles against Matthew being born healthy, and he was. And so when he was named Matthew, it was perfect because Matthew means a gift from God. And I thought, wow. So yes, Jerry, I really felt that history. But let me share something with you because my former husband was Jewish. So let me share something with you because this is important. The Jewish history has always identified with names. Jewish history has always recognized the importance of the name. That's why the children are named in the temple and they're named that special name. It's important because it identifies the person. It can somewhat define the person. It gives that person somewhat of a mission, like you said. And so when names were changed in the Bible, you hit it perfectly, Jerry. It's a new beginning, a new mission, a new creation. It's awesome. And we've moved a little bit away from that in this world. We've kind of not really played up as much of the name. And I want to share something, Jerry. You said you go by Jerry, and I go by Debbie. But your real birth name is Gerard, and mine is Deborah. I've also had a lot of scripture scholars that said you and I should actually use our given full name, not our nickname.
Oh, really? Is that right?
Yes. And that has
Take two with Gerard and Deborah?
That sounds so formal, though, doesn't it? But isn't that interesting? Because they said that's where the power lies, in the given formal name. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, you know what, Jerry, though, is kind of it's considered sort of they call it a diminutive, or I guess a derivative of Jeremiah.
Oh.
So Jerry is kind of taken from, a prophet's name. And it also means, it also comes from kind of Germanic, like a German soldier and stuff.
Right.
So, but we're asking you, our listeners, and it's kind of a lighthearted topic, but it's also very serious today. So, were you named for a parent? Are you a junior? Are you a third, a fourth? Were you named for a grandparent? Both of my middle names, Joseph and Harrison, are from each of my grandfathers.
Right, similar to my child. Yeah.
And were you named for a saint? Or perhaps you don't really know what your birth name means, but maybe you took for a confirmation name, a particular saint. See, it's important. We want to identify or be identified with people who are close to God. People, we want to have a name that has, a significant meaning. And if you can't really figure out what yours means, that's okay. Maybe you can just sort of mentally adopt a particular name that you like, or a particular patron saint. So, Debbie, we got, looks like full phone lines. So we'll take our first break and come back and find out who some of our listeners are named for.
That would be wonderful. So let's take that break. And when a phone line opens up, please jump in at 1-800-585-9396. We're talking about the meaning of your name, the history of your name. So stay with us on Take Two. We're going to take that quick break, and we'll be right back and dive right into the phones.
The woman caught in adultery felt worthless. She found a new identity when a man stood between her and her executioners. Let anyone without sin cast the first stone. One by one they walked away. Is there anyone left who condemns you? Neither do I. Go and sin no more. Peter felt unworthy when he first met Jesus. He fell to his knees and said, "Depart from me, Lord, I'm a sinful man." Jesus saw something more in Peter than he saw in himself. Come follow me. You'll be a fisher of men. St. Paul was a persecutor of Christians. In one of the simplest and most heroic acts in early Christian history, Ananias, who had been hiding from Paul, went to pray over him. He didn't say, "Saul, you murderer." He said, "Saul, my brother, our Lord sent me." Forgiven, fisher of men, brother. Have you defined yourself in light of your sin or weakness? Jesus is reaching out to you now, calling you by a new name. This is Chris Stefanik from reallifecatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
Hi, I'm Doug Keck, the host of EWTN's Bookmark, and I wanted to tell you about a new book, Praying with Mother Angelica, Meditations on the Rosary, the Way of the Cross, and Other Prayers. It's a new book that's out from Mother Angelica, and with me is Father Joseph Mary Wolf, our chaplain here. And Father Joseph, you knew Mother for many, many years, worked very closely with her, and you could appreciate this book and recommend it. What are some of the highlights, maybe a prayer you'd like to read?
You know, I like it that it has her meditations on the mysteries of the Rosary, including the luminous mysteries, which were taken from her programs later, but also her meditations on the Stations of the Cross. And one of my favorite parts is her conversation with God. So it's like entering into her prayer. Mm-hmm. So here's one where Mother speaks about time, and it's more like a prayer. Life is so short, my Lord. I look at all my yesterdays and they seem so hazy, while all my tomorrows are uncertain. The only time I really possess is this tiny moment, and it passes so quickly. It is a most precious gift in your hands, and I should look at it as I would a treasure.
Exactly, and as Mother always said about living in the present moment, and now is the moment for you to check out Mother's new book, Praying with Mother Angelica, Meditations on the Rosary, the Way of the Cross, and Other Prayers. You won't be sorry. It's a wonderful new book available right now. Order it today.
To get your copy of Praying with Mother Angelica, log on to our web store, EWTNRC.com, and type in item 80008, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, or with Gerard and Deborah. Thanks for being with us. We're going to go right to your phone calls. We have one line open, actually. Oh, there, somebody just took it.
Did you see that? It went fast.
When we clear a line, it's 800-585-9396. What's in a name? Well, a lot can be in the name that we are given, or that we take in confirmation, or a patron saint that we adopt. So we're going to start with Regina in Rochester, New York, Station of the Cross listener. Regina, that is a beautiful name, so tell us about it.
Hi, so I'm named Regina Cecile. My first name is obviously for the Blessed Mother. Regina means queen or queenly in Latin, and Cecile is obviously Saint Cecilia. And there's a little bit of a story that goes with my name. For my parents, they were kind of torn between Regina Cecile or Cecile Regina, and at the time that I was born, my father was away in the military, and my mother prayed a lot of rosaries and a lot of Hail Marys for my father's safety. And so when I was born, she decided that Regina would be my first name. So I've always held that very close to my heart, that was very significant for me.
Yeah, it was meant to be just for you. So you sound very, very proud of your name, are you?
Oh, yeah.
It's beautiful. Do you get a lot of people ask you, what does Regina mean?
Not necessarily, but I often I have to spell it out for people because it's not too common. So a lot of times when I say Regina, they think I say Virginia or something else.
Right,
so that's kind of interesting. But I don't really go by a nickname either. You guys were talking about that. For a while when I was little, I liked Gina, and then I realized there were a lot more Ginas than Reginas, and I kind of like to be on my own.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to stick with my name. I'll just be Regina.
I was going to ask you if you went by Gina for short at all. So that's beautiful, though, because, the name Regina, like you said, queen or queenly, and it just really is so related to our Blessed Mother. So you're very blessed, Regina, and, wow, your parents were really prayerfully thinking about that,
Yes.
and they made great choices.
I'm very lucky.
Yep. All right, thanks, Regina, for getting us started here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We appreciate that. 1-800-585-9396.
Okay, we're going to go all the way out to the West Coast, to Los Angeles, California, listening on Sirius XM 130. We're going to go to Bob. Welcome to Take Two, Bob, with Jerry and Debbie.
Good morning. I had a question for you, and it's whether you've noticed a major trend away from parents naming their children after saints in the last several decades, and if so, what does it really say about our society in general?
Well, I want to share something with you, Bob, because I actually was very interested in this when I was having my children, because I went with biblical names, obviously Daniel from the Old Testament, Matthew from the New Testament. And of course, at that time, I had a lot of friends who named their kids names that they basically put sounds and letters together that they liked the rhythm of it, and then that became the child's name. And so we had a very huge difference between, how I was naming my children and some of my friends were naming their children, and nothing wrong with that. But what I found interesting is when I would talk to my friends about why they settled on that as opposed to, a family history of names or biblical history of names or saints' names, they said they wanted their child to be extremely unique, and they wanted their child to stand apart. And that was the idea at that time. But I will tell you, Bob, here's what's interesting. I don't know if you know this, but there's a huge shift back towards traditional biblical names, and especially Old Testament names. Like really, long, somewhat difficult Hebrew names, Ezekiel, and, very, kind of harder names to even spell and say. There's a huge trend moving back towards that. So you see how the wave kind of goes back and forth with that, Bob. But that's what my kind of, personal research what came forth from it is that people, my friends, really wanted their kids to stand apart. So I don't know if that helps at all.
Well, that's interesting. I found that if you name your kids traditional saint names today, they actually do tend to stand apart, because a lot of people today seem to name their children after banks, like names like Morgan and Chase. And I found it ironic that giving my kids traditional names actually ended up having them have a relatively rare name, because there's not too many Christophers or Patricks or Peters anymore. When you send your kid to school, it's Sydney's and it's Austin's and it's, I don't know, Morgan. It's not those names. Just you don't. So you can actually have it both ways today. But I actually think there is more to it, as my question suggests. I think of my grandma's generation, and there was saint names all over the show. And then today, it's not so much. You just don't see it as much. Although I appreciate what you're saying about a bit of a counter trend, but you just don't see anything near the same extent. And I think as our society has gone through these last, 5 to 10 decades, we've shifted away from God a lot, and it's actually reflected in the name.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it really is interesting how that phenomenon plays out, and it is very noticeable. Bob, I'm sure do you go by Bob or Robert? I think they both sort of more or less mean the same thing. Do you know the kind of the derivative, what your name is derived from?
I don't actually. I was named after my dad, and Robert's actually my middle name.
Okay. Well, Robert, from what I'm seeing here, it means like famed or bright or shining. So.
See, Bob?
Well, that's how I got past your call screener, evidently.
Yeah. Well, we'll be on the lookout for you next time, okay?
All right. Thanks a lot.
Well, wait, Bob, before you go. So you said that's your middle name. I'm just curious. What is your first name, if you care to share?
Carl.
Carl. Okay, very cool. Very, very cool.
But my mom made a deal with my dad when I was born, and she said, "I'll name him after you, but we will never call him that name. We'll only call him Bobby or Robert." And so I'd be that kid sitting in class, and the teacher'd be calling Carl on attendance, and I wouldn't even answer. I had no idea what she was talking about.
Oh, bless your heart. That is awesome. Well, I know you're probably having a beautiful day in Los Angeles, so because we're having a great day, a hot day in Arizona, and I hear that the West Coast is super hot right now too, so it's going to get up into the 80s in there, I believe. So enjoy the day.
All right, I'm noticing all the saint names on all the streets because I'm stuck in traffic. It's kind of funny in California. If you look around, many of the streets are named, and even the cities are named after saints. And it's good to keep that in mind, because when you drive around, you realize in Southern California, there's a saint every time you go through a new city, practically.
That's right. That's right. In fact, the city of Los Angeles, people always call it the city of the angels, but really, if I understand it right, Bob, maybe you can help us on this. The full name is it not Nuestra Señora de los Ángeles, Our Lady of the Angels?
I feel bad. I've lived here my whole life, and I don't know that, Jerry.
Well, I think that is the case.
I
think
believe
it's
you're right,
named,
Jerry.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Nuestra Señora de los Ángeles. All right, Bob, thanks so much. Be safe out there. It's probably not as hard to be safe when you're going about 1 mile an hour, but be careful, and we hope that you will keep listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and call us again at 1-800-585-9396. We're going to go to Mary in Cleveland, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Mary. Welcome to the program.
Hi, how are you?
Better
Doing
now
well.
that you've called.
Pardon me?
Better now that you called.
Oh, yes. Well, you all know what my name is.
Yep.
But I had,
Lucky.
and I am so, growing up, you're like Mary. It was just so Mary. But as I grew older, I truly grew to appreciate my name. My mom's name was Anne. Her mother's name was Cecilia. My grandmother's name was Mary. My grandfather's name was Daniel. My dad's name was John. So it seemed like it was just a big, I don't know, they seemed to name after the Old Testament and the New Testament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then don't you have a son, Samuel, too?
My son is Samuel, and my husband is Samuel as well.
Wow. So, so now that you do have the most precious name of Mary, and it is, that has to make you. I mean, just to know that you're named after our Blessed Mother. I mean, that really. I mean, it has to make you feel internally just so loved.
And in so many ways it does. And we unfortunately just lost our only child, Samuel. It'll be a year this Sunday. So in many ways, I feel more close to her because of that reason. So, but the meaning of his name is, and my husband's as well, is what I really would like to know more about Samuel.
Well, Mary, the name, real quick search here online, the name Samuel means, it means either name of God or God has heard. God has heard. And I think that is so poignantly beautiful for you right now, because I know you're expressing a lot of things to God right now and wanting him to hear all of them. And how old was Samuel, Mary? I don't know if you mentioned that.
He was 38 years old.
Okay.
Suddenly.
Well, yeah.
Well, Mary, here's what you can take just a tiny bit of comfort in knowing that now you have an entire world around you praying for your family, praying for your son, and that he may rest in peace. And how beautiful that is, that you have that strength of everyone around you actually sharing somewhat in your grief, because you're still grieving. It takes a long time for parents to even accept that their child has left this earth. And so know that there are a lot of us around you that can share in your grief, and we can pray with you and for your son. So that should hopefully bring you just that kernel of comfort to know that you have support, prayer support.
Important to me, because I find that's the only comfort I really have, truly.
Well, Mary, you probably thought of this or heard this or been told this, but you couldn't have a better name when it comes to having lost a son, because the woman who knows as much about that or more than you do right now, obviously, can share that perfectly with you, is Mary, who lost her son. She got him back at his resurrection, and of course I know you and all of us, we're going to pray that you get your son back, obviously, at the resurrection too. That's some tiny bit of consolation, hopefully, to look forward to. But in the meantime, let the tears flow when they have to. That has to work its way through. And as Debbie said, Mary, we're going to be praying for you and your family, and all the Take Two with Jerry and Debbie listeners are going to be praying as well. Thank you so much. You took the courage to call in, and you honored Samuel today, and we were happy to help you do that. So, Mary, that music means our break is coming up that we just have to take right now. God bless you. We'll hope to hear from you again, and we'll hear from many others of you on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie coming up.
EWTN is now on Twitter. Get short, timely messages from EWTN on your computer or cell phone. It's easy to stay up to date on a wide variety of topics. Pro-life news, Vatican announcements, catechesis, apologetics, the latest EWTN programming, and more. You can link to EWTN on Twitter from our homepage or go to twitter.com/EWTN. At work, at home, at school, and on the road. Stay connected to your world with EWTN's Twitter page.
From the archives, this is the wisdom of Mother Angelica.
We need to pray for the gift of knowledge, not just knowledge of our faults, but knowledge of God. Do you know God? Or is he just somebody that you go to when you're in trouble? This gift of knowledge is a certain amount of detachment. We're attached to everything, little things, silly things, chairs. Don't sit in my chair. Why? Because it just fits me. It doesn't fit you. You're too fat. Well, if you ever said that to somebody, you're attached to what? A chair. You can be attached to God, and you can love everybody. You can love your children and love your parents and love even your enemies. But attachments take the soul out of your heart.
For more about Mother Angelica, visit EWTNRC.com.
It's the start of a new day for Morning Catholic Radio.
There's an old song by Mahalia Jackson. It says, the way may not be easy, but you never said it would be. But when my way gets a little too easy, Lord, I tend to stray from thee.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Wow. And she has such a beautiful voice, too. Yeah. To hear her sing it, you just want to lay out on the floor and say, hallelujah.
Morning Glory, Catholic from the start. Weekday mornings, 7 Eastern on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Thanks for joining us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. You heard just beautiful words from Mother Angelica, and earlier on one of the spots you heard Doug Keck talking about the book Praying with Mother Angelica, the hardbound, beautiful book of meditations on the Rosary, the Way of the Cross, and other prayers. And I just wanted to share, because based on Mary's call from Cleveland, Ohio, talking about, her son Samuel and the loss of her son, in the back of this book, first of all, this book is a wonderful must-have. It really is. But in the back of the book, there's conversations with God, Mother Angelica's conversations with God, and there's little excerpts on how to really heal from certain things like suffering and healing of memory and all sorts of things that we all struggle with, that we go through life. And they're short, and you can meditate on them, and they're so profound, and they really touch deeply into your soul. So I just want to, echo what Doug Keck was saying about how wonderful this book is, Praying with Mother Angelica. And it's an awesome, I believe it's a great, I would get two, one for you keep in your own library and one to give as a gift. And Jerry, I know you were going to share where our listeners can get this wonderful book.
Well, yeah, it's very easy online at EWTNreligiouscatalog.com or EWTNRC.com. So it's got a couple of ways to get there. There's a phone number as well, 1-800-854-6316, 1-800-854-6316, or EWTNRC, short for religiouscatalog.com.
Cool. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so Krista Blaze in Cleveland, Ohio as well is listening on The Rock AM 1260. How cool is that? Krista Blaze. I already love the name, Krista, so welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Thank you.
Tell us about your name.
Well, I love telling my story because it does, I get to tell the story every time anybody asks my name. I was born February 2nd at 11:11 p.m. So we all know Christ presented in the temple on February 2nd. So that's where Krista came from. And then so close to St. Blaise name day, my parents gave me a hyphenated name, which none of my friends had.
Cool.
And then St. Valentine's Day, my mother's mother was born on St. Valentine's Day. Her name was Valentina, so that was my middle name. So I am Krista Blaise Valentina.
Wow.
And I'm just so blessed. I just love telling the story and telling people have no idea. And it's just, because they were like, oh, your parents are hippies. I'm like, what are you talking about? No. And so then I have two daughters who have another stories, but my first son was born last year, and through his St. Augustine's intercession, I met the man God meant for me. And so we named him Augustine, and his both grandfathers are Robert Anthony, so he has a hyphenated middle name. So we have Augustine Robert Anthony, and everybody just loves hearing that we have a boy named Augustine.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's beautiful.
Because that's not a common name either.
I was wondering, I'm sure you know, how do you spell the first name, Krista, if I may ask?
C-H.
C-H-R-I-S-T-A?
R-I-S-T-A.
Okay, well,
B-L-A-I-S-T.
you know what Krista comes from, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a derivative of Christ, actually. It means follower of Christ. I mean, it's Christ with an A on the end. Krista and Blaise after St. Blaise. I just think that's beautiful. So there is a hyphen. It is hyphenated, Krista Blaise. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's interesting.
And
I don't... Go ahead.
I just love hearing you say that, because I tell people that, too, because they say C with a C or a K, and I say it's Christ with an A.
Christ with an A.
Yeah, good stuff.
That is beautiful.
Well, and something I found interesting, Krista, and may I ask, if it doesn't put you on the spot, can I ask give me your age bracket that you're in?
I just turned 38.
38. Okay, cool. So here's, and happy birthday. Yes, because you just had a birthday. Happy birthday. But see, if you listen to the first caller, Bob, or second caller, I believe, from Los Angeles, Bob was sharing about how, how there's those unique names that parents, pick out, and what is the reasoning behind that. And see, in your name, you have a very unique name, but yet it's linked to very specific situations, the way you were born, the time you were born, and everything. So there is a uniqueness in it, but there's a history, because you actually are writing your own family history right now, which is really cool. And then you went on to name your child Augustine, which is, is a saint's name. And so you went back to just a very traditional name when you have Robert Anthony. Of course, I love the name Anthony. Saint Anthony is one of my favorite saints. But here's the cool thing, is that's what I think is important for people to understand, especially if they have a uniquely derived name, is that you may not be, quote unquote, linked to Jewish history or to even our Christian roots, but you are, Krista, but I'm saying for those unique names that are named like after towns and cities and stuff like that, the family history begins right there. So there's history in the name right there that is very personal to the family. And I think that is huge. And so by you educating people on why your parents named you what they named based on the timing of your birth, I think is a great evangelization tool. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Can I also share my other two sisters' names?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My older sister is 3 years older than me, and her name has become common. It's Anne Marie, but it was because of St. Anne and Mary Marie. But then my younger sister is 2 years younger than me. Her name is Rory Madonna, also hyphenated. My father's name is Robert, and they did not like any other derivatives of Robert, so they came up with Rory, and then of course Madonna for Mary again.
Mm-hmm.
So
wow.
I don't know how she got through telling people her name, but she, because of the 80s, and then there was Madonna and the rock movement, but she was very proud to carry Rory Madonna, and it was really neat. And we haven't met anybody else named like that. Yeah, we were one of those children that had, we didn't have our names up on the keychain or the little license plate rack, So
you wouldn't find it on those new Coke cans today, right?
No
Right.
cocaine either.
Have a Coke with Krista Blaze.
Yeah. You had to pay extra to customize your own pencils and pens.
Yeah.
I know. But I love St. Blaise. We should really do a show on St. Blaise. And Krista, if you're a devoted listener to Take Two, listen up for that, because St. Blaise is a very interesting saint, and there's a lot of miracles around St. Blaise. So you're very blessed to have your names. I really believe that. I'm glad you called in today. There was a definite Holy Spirit reason you called in. I feel it.
Thank you. And, ironically, it's 12 o'clock used to be the rosary time. And I was driving with my daughter, and I said, hold on, the rosary's going to be on. And then your show popped up. I'm like, where's the rosary? So this is the first time I'm hearing you. And I'm just so happy that we listened in, because she likes to play her Care Bears tape. So I'm like, no, we'll listen to the show.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my
You
goodness.
were right.
Oh, wow.
And we listened.
Yeah, it was meant to be. Wow. Don't you love how the Holy Spirit works? I'll tell you, that's the thing, is he's always working through us, within us, around us. And that's the great thing when we answer to it, when we fall into it, such wonderful, miraculous things happen. So Krista, thank you so very much for calling in. I hope you continue to listen, and God bless your day.
We have a line open, 1-800-585-9396. Maybe you're listening for the first time. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Or today we're talking about what's in a name. Our given names are Gerard and Deborah. What is yours? What's the meaning of your name? A given name, a confirmation name, maybe a nickname, a patron saint that you have kind of latched onto and you like in particular. 1-800-585-9396. Maybe you don't know what the meaning of your name is. Call in, and we can kind of talk that through and try to figure it out with a little help from the internet.
And Jerry, I was just going to say, we do short takes on the show, so I hope Krista Blaze is still listening, because I'm going to vote for her call to be the short take, so that her family can listen as the first time she called in to Take Two, so they could have that as their own little, part of their, memorabilia.
Well, explain what that means, though.
Okay, short take is a little snapshot of the Take Two program for that day. And so we pick out a certain caller that kind of, just kind of captures the essence of the topic. And then we post it on the take2show.com, and then Jeff Burson also on Facebook. And he gets it everywhere out there on social media. And so the short take is replayed again and again and again, which is kind of cool. So we picked that one. And so I'm voting. I'm going to tell you right up front, I'm voting for Krista Blaze today, because it was the first time she called. Well, there's still some calls to
come, though.
I know. Unless we get another first-time call. All right. Okay.
Well, why don't we go right back to the calls? Linda
Sounds
May
great.
in St. Augustine, Florida, listening on Sirius XM 130. Linda May, you're up next on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. How are you?
Hello.
Hi there.
Oh, I'm sitting here, turned off the engine to the car. All right. My name is Linda May, and that sounds so ordinary. If you look in the books, it's pretty merry. However, if you're Portuguese, it means beautiful mother.
Mm.
So there, Mother of God is my patroness on January 1st. My mother's family is Portuguese from the Azore Islands.
How do you spell the May, Linda May, the May part?
M-A-E. I always thought it was an old lady's name. But I love my name, and there were so many Lindas when I was in school that I am most happy to use the name Linda May, or it's actually pronounced Linda Mai. But Linda May is just fine.
Beautiful mother in Portuguese. I love it. Absolutely love it. So that must make you feel really great inside.
Well, it does. It may not top Krista Blaze, but yes, the Mother of God is. She's my companion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And as you said, it's in a number of Romance languages. Italian, Spanish, Portuguese. Linda, or as they would say in Spanish, linda. Does mean beautiful or pretty or cute. So your parents must have looked at you, Linda May, and said, she's got to be named Linda. Just look at her.
Yes, but I think my father had something else in mind. There was a biplane named the Winnie Mae, and that's what he called me instead of Linda May, Winnie Mae. I kind of think that helped him decide.
Oh, that is precious. That is absolutely precious.
Well, Winnie means fair one, white and smooth, soft, happiness, fair, pure. So,
Wow.
you wouldn't have gone too wrong with that one either, but I'm sure you're happy with Linda May.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much.
All
I'll
right.
be listening.
Thank you. 1-800-585-9396. Take two with Jerry and Debbie. We're going to go to our next caller who has my mother's name, Dorothy, driving through Texas, listening also on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Dorothy. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi there. How are you guys?
Doing okay, Dorothy. How are you?
We're doing well. This is our first time also listening to the show. We're driving from El Paso down to South Texas.
Wonderful.
Oh, cool. Wait, okay, so Dorothy, if this is the first time, if you're driving, you have a headset on, right, and a seatbelt on? We always make sure.
I'm in the back seat with the kids, and my husband's driving.
Does he have a seatbelt on? Okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Debbie's nickname is Mother, by the way, Dorothy, so don't be offended.
Yes. No, not at all. I appreciate it.
Oh, cool. So thank you for calling. Well, tell us about your name.
Well, my name's Dorothy. I was supposed to be named Olga Iris, but my mom had pneumonia when I was born, and my dad would be in the hospital, and the nurse would come in and ask, well, what name will we name the child? And he said, well, when she wakes up, when he was speaking of my mother. And a call came in, and the lady, friend of my mom's, was named Dorothy, so he said, yeah, just name her Dorothy. Mm-hmm. That's how I got my name. But I wanted to call to ask you about, cause I'm Hispanic and my husband's Irish.
Okay.
And growing up in school, we always heard the name Jesus. In Hispanics, Jesus and Maria are very common names and prominent names. And we would always bow our head, when you hear the name of Jesus. And so in the Hispanic culture, it's normal, but in his culture, no one's name is Jesus. Or no one really names their children Jesus.
Right. Right. Well, first of all, Dorothy, we want to backtrack for 1 second because Jerry looked up your name and it means a gift. It's gift of God. Did you know that, Dorothy?
Yes. Gift of God is my name. My husband's name is Theodore, which is God's gift.
Oh my
goodness! Same name. Yeah. So it's at our wedding. At our wedding, his uncle was our homilist, and he actually had that in his homily for us.
Oh, what a great gift that was!
Wow. How cool is that? Okay, so back to Jesus. Well,
see, I've always wondered about this too, Debbie and Dorothy. I've always thought, if I, would I be able to name a child, Jesus or Jesus? And I would love to have, if there's anybody who is named Jesus or you named a son Jesus, I'd love to have you call in and explain. Obviously, it's a very honor, they want to honor, give that child the name that Jesus bore. But, I think what the point Dorothy's making is a lot of us might think, be a little bit uncomfortable with that. But obviously, in certain cultures, there's no discomfort with that at all. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Right. Well, that's what I was always told because I had asked that. I worked at one of my second parishes actually had a very strong Hispanic population, and it was wonderful because we saw a lot of little Jesuses in our religious education program. And every time I would call Jesus, I would say to the young man, I would say, lucky. And he'd go, yeah, I know, I am lucky. And I asked the priest that at the time, and they said it's just because of, now we could get a better explanation. We probably should look this up, Jerry, because I'm sure there is some, kind of theological reasoning behind it. But I know that in the Spanish culture, that it is accepted to name a child Jesus, whereas in the Anglo English speaking language, it is technically not accepted. So that's what I was told by a priest one time, but I'm sure there's a better explanation of it. I think it's totally awesome. I think the parents that name their kids Jesus, I think is such a beautiful, honoring name, obviously. But what's really cool about it, too, is it gives the child an opportunity to really live out their faith and really explain to others, why in their culture they took the name of Jesus. And I think it's an awesome responsibility, I'll tell you that, to be named Jesus. But I don't know if that answers your question. Jerry, did you look it up at all?
We have a great patron if you're named Jesus, but I just what I was able to find is it talks about the cat, especially this is in particular to Mexico. It talks about it's steeped in Catholic tradition, and so it also mentions names like Concepcion, Guadalupe and Jose and Maria. So I just think I really love it. I think it's just a very strong identifier with the Catholic Christian faith. So, Dorothy, I don't know, any other thoughts or questions from you?
Thank you. Well, you said it was a great responsibility. We have a 6-month-old son now, and when we were going to name him, my husband and I kept going back and forth with a few names that we really, really liked, and we liked the early martyrs and the early saints, and we knew that this name was going to be what he was going to be called for the rest of his life, and we didn't know if it was going to give him any troubles or problems or anything, but we ended up choosing Athanasius over Polycarp.
Oh, wow.
And it was a really hard decision for us, but our family members, we always poll the audience at the right. Easter dinner, holidays, and we chose Athanasius.
Well, see, were you listening earlier when we were talking to Bob from Los Angeles? Because it's exactly what I meant, that the families now are swinging back to the really, early church fathers, the early church martyrs, like you said, the Old Testament names, and I think that is beautiful. But here's the great thing about it. I think if you attach the history, and I'm sure you're going to do that with your children, when you attach the history of who they're named after, it really does intimately connect them with that saint or that biblical figure. And that is huge, because it allows that child to really, dive into the faith in a very unique and intimate way. And so I think that's another part that is very important when we name our kids after somebody very great. It's important to give them that rich history along with it so that they understand it. So, Dorothy, before we let you go, because the show's going to be wrapping up, since you're in the car and I can hear the other kids, can you name your children, or just one? Name your children so that we don't have you when you get off the phone, your kids say, "Mom, how come you didn't give them our name?"
Well, our oldest daughter is Kateri.
Oh,
and then we have our son, who is Athanasius.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. God bless your family. You sound like just an awesome family. We'd love to be in the car with you. Sounds like a fun ride driving to Texas.
We are in the car with them.
Oh, that's right.
Dorothy, tell your husband to drive safely, because you've got precious cargo. Your babies and Jerry and Debbie are all riding with him. So we got it, and you. So he's got to be safe driving. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
God bless you. Oh, we're going to go to another beautiful name, Joy, next in Bloomington, Indiana, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Joy. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi.
Howdy.
How are you?
Doing well, Joy. What's your take on the name topic today?
Well, I also called because I thought I was tuning into the Rosary. And so this is the first time I have heard you as well. However, I wanted to call and just share with you how I got my name. My mom, I have 2 older brothers, and when my second brother was born, the delivery was incredibly difficult, and she and my brother almost died. It was a very, very bad birth. And the doctors told her at that time that she should have no more children, because the chances were very high that both would be lost. So she and my dad took that advice, but then she became pregnant with me, and so the doctors scheduled a clinical abortion, which back in the day was pretty drastic stuff. So anyway, they did that reluctantly. They scheduled that, and the night before my mom was supposed to go in for the clinical abortion, she had a dream about her mom, and her mother had died when she was about 10 years old. Her dad died when she was born. So she was very close to her mom for the time that she had her. But she had this dream, and my mom paid very close attention to dreams, and she saw her mother, and she was very excited to see her mom. But her mother would not look at her. And so my mother was very upset by that and told my dad when she woke up that she was not going in to have this abortion because she knew it was wrong. Her mom would not look at her. So she didn't, and she had me. But during the pregnancy, she told me that she was very sad because she really felt that there was a very high possibility that she was going to die and leave my brothers and my dad. So she never they never discussed names or anything like that. So she went into the hospital, Catholic hospital, and she was crying. And the nuns who were there, she told me, were just soothing her and rubbing her arm and telling her, don't cry, dear. God will bring you joy. God will bring you joy. Don't cry. And so when she had me, like I said, she didn't have any names, and they would not dismiss us without her naming me. And so she decided, since the nuns told her that God would bring her joy, that that's what my name would be. And so they released us, and that was how I got my name.
Oh my goodness! When you just said I kind of figured the ending when you had said that when you were being born, and I just started welling up in tears. Joy, what an amazing story, an amazing history to your birth. That is huge. I mean, this is the reason why we say how precious life is and how precious every single miraculous human being that comes into this world. And so your name totally fits. I mean, your story. Your name is your story, Joy. That is awesome.
Yes. Thank you.
Wow. And it was the first time you calling in. I mean, I'm blown away. See how, the Holy Spirit again. It's amazing. Jerry, I know you're smiling and you want to say something. Go ahead.
No, I'm just taking it all in. Joy is a beautiful name. It means rejoicing. And Joy, we really, really appreciate you calling and sharing that with us here on the program today. Keep listening. We've had several people just kind of finding the show for the first time today and calling in for the first time. Joy, we hope that this will not be the last time that you listen or that we hear from you. And I just wish we had more time. Angie and Renee and Don, forgive us, please. It's not our fault. It's the clock's fault. But we just wish we could get to everybody every day. And we apologize that we are just about 30 seconds away from the closing music. Renee, I just wanted to say I did a little look of your name. It means reborn or born again. Renee was wondering what her name means. I think that's beautiful. So every day, Renee, when you get up, you can say, I am just renewed. I am reborn. I am a new creature in Christ, and just make it a fantastic day. Angie and Don, you do the same things. Debbie, my takeaway is, what's in a name? A lot. That's my takeaway.
Why is it that we always have almost the same takeaway?
You
we
just
really
say that.
We do. But I feel the same way. I listening to Joy's story and Krista Blaze's and Linda May's and Dorothy's and Bob's. I mean, you go on, and how Mary's and Regina. Wow. There is history in your name, and celebrate your name today. That's what my takeaway is. Celebrate your name today, and it kind of leads in perfectly to tomorrow's show, Jerry. We're talking about how life is so fragile. You can come through so many things in life, and life is precious and life is fragile, and that's tomorrow's topic.
Yeah, have you been at death's door? Or maybe you know someone who has. Maybe we're in jeopardy of dying and bounce back. As Debbie said, life could end at any moment. So we're going to talk about how precious life is, but how fragile it is as well. So be with us tomorrow on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Until then, have a blessed day.